Hello, and welcome to Confidently Compliant, a food safety podcast. I'm your host, Paula Parejo, and I'm from the BRCGS Americas team. For those of you who don't know us, we are a GFSI standard that is recognized globally, and we do everything from packaging to consumer products to ethical to everything in between beyond your food safety standards. Something that we really believe in at BRCGS is that we like to build a community and create a space for like-minded people to get to connect and to learn from one another. So with that being said, today I have invited my colleague, Michelle Tindale. She is the head of events and training at BRCGS, and we're going to be talking about networking and professional development. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
So Michelle, could you tell us a little bit about your background and how your experience has really brought you the amount of knowledge that you have in effective networking?
Sure. So I have a bit of a checkered past, as probably most people do. And I got into training and events in various forms probably about 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't count how many we've run and I've run over the years. But it's a part of the business that I really, really love and really enjoy. And it sort of appeals to me and my loves, really, which is learning and development.
Yeah.
And I observe an awful lot. So when you run events, you obviously speak to people, you listen to their concerns, but you watch an awful lot. So I see a lot of really successful networking, and I see where people struggle, and I see where we can help.
That's a very good point in terms of seeing where people struggle and where you can help. So I'm interested to know, how many events have you run at this point in your career?
Who knows? I mean, they all kind of merge together. We have, certainly at BRCGS, we have a set calendar of events that we run, but probably over the years, over 30, 35 events of various sizes and formats. But yeah, good fun. Keeps me out of trouble.
So I want to get right to it. I'm going to ask you the $1 million question.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Okay. What is considered good networking? And I use the terms good networking because I do find that a lot of companies will try to go forward with networking because it's something like, oh, we just need to do this. But they have no idea how to go about it to make it actually effective and successful. And they feel like it's a drain on their budget or of their time. So give me an example or tell me what the keys are of good networking.
It's really interesting because it really depends what your aims are. So the networking is one of those things that, as you just said, they use that word, people bandy that word around. It's a good word, doesn't it? It sounds good, it sounds impressive. But if you want to network, you need to have an aim. You can't just walk into a room full of people and go, I'm going to network. It doesn't work. You need to have some aims. You need to have just one or two, maximum of 3 objectives, really. Who do you want to talk to? Why do you want to be there? Are you there to learn? Are you there to find new contacts? Are you there for commercial reasons? So try to identify those overarching things before you attend, and that will help you really focus and have a much more successful event.
How do you think people should measure their success? So you kind of gave some indications in terms of what you should be looking for when you walk into a room, but what are the things that you should take away to say this was a successful networking opportunity? Yeah,
and it's an interesting one because most companies now, obviously, there needs to be a return on the investment. You know, attending conferences, attending training isn't cheap. It requires investment in the individual and from the company, 9 times out of 10. And there needs to be a return on investment. That doesn't always have to be commercial. That could be skills. You're adding skills to your portfolio, or you're adding new contacts to your network. The other thing to bear in mind is that when you do attend events, there's always an opportunity to learn. There's always a seminar that you could attend, potentially a training session that you can attend. And by taking advantage of these additional peripheral events, smaller events that are on the main event, you're potentially saving yourself and your company hundreds, thousands of dollars potentially, not only in fees, training fees, but also in travel time. You know, you've committed to attending an event, make the best use of it, see what is running and grab everything.
That's a really good point. I feel like a lot of people don't necessarily think about that, to look at what is actually scheduled in the event ahead of time and to plan ahead to think like, okay, if I can do these kinds of courses, what are the elements that I can actually implement this into my job for professional development?
Absolutely. It's critical to plan ahead.
Yeah.
You've committed to attending an event.
Mm-hmm.
You've committed to spending either your money or the company's money.
Mm-hmm.
You need to plan your time and you need to plan it effectively. You need to have fun along the way.
Yeah.
This is not all work and no fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of conferences and events, is that you actually get to make a personal contact with people. You're seeing people and you're seeing the real person. So you're making that personable contact. But you need to recognize the value of why you're there.
It's interesting that you mentioned personal contact. That was actually going to lead into my next question that I wanted to ask you. How do you build meaningful relationships at these conferences?
It's interesting because it comes back to what your aims are.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an element of what are you trying to do? Are you just there for commercial reasons, or do you want to develop a longer lasting relationship and actually have an opportunity to communicate with these people long term?
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember that we're just people. And I think that gets forgotten in the melee of everybody attending all these formal events and hung up on, the technical ability of people. Mm-hmm. We're just people. Let's just connect with each other on a very personal level. And that's what somebody will remember about you. A silly story that you tell them, or anything. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So obviously I meet a lot of people.
Yes.
And embarrassingly, I forget a lot of names, so I apologize. So quite often people know my name and I apologize because I can't remember theirs. So apologies to everybody that I do that with. But there's an individual that comes to our event in America every year.
Yeah.
He shall remain nameless.
So we know it's a man.
We know it's a man, yes. That's all you're getting. And during break times, if you've noticed, but most venues have a bell they ring or some sort of noise-making machine to get people back into the main conference hall. Sometimes that goes missing. At times like that, I go and find my friend, and he has got the most amazing whistle. One of those ones that you hail a cab, like New Yorkers do, which I can't do. He does that, and it is amazing. He'll know, if he's watching this, he'll know who he is. But we've made a connection on that level. We have a laugh and a joke, and you get to see just a little bit of that person and that person's character. And that's what you take home, and that's what you remember.
That's a really good example. You know what? Now that I think about it, in a lot of events that I've been to in the past in terms of like networking and conferences, it's almost very rarely the actual business-specific connections that I remember. Sure, I remember at the time for the next week to do my follow-ups and stuff. But in terms of the most meaningful ones, it's always more of the personal stories to connect with that person. Because you know what? I do feel like a lot of people do forget that even in sales, if you're going to go into a sales conversation and the first thing you're doing is that you say, hey, what do you do? And then you're just waiting to make your pitch or your value proposition the second the person takes a breath. They're not going to give you the time of day.
No, and that's a really important point actually that you make, is that, you need to listen. Mm-hmm. You need to make connections with those people and give them your attention, your entire attention, which is really hard when you have a room full of people, noisy people, interesting people. You might see somebody out of the corner of your eye and go, oh, I really want to speak to them.
Yes.
But the person you're speaking to in that moment, give them your 100% attention and it will be much more effective.
I think I've been guilty of that in the past. It can be hard. You know what I mean? Because it's so hard. Busy. It can be so busy in some conferences, not all, but in that moment when you're in that networking space and you're just like, someone drops something and you look over and you're like, oh, and then you see someone that you kind of want to talk to and whatever. Yeah. So yes, a lot of us are guilty of that.
Very much. And it's interesting actually that you say some conferences are very busy. I think the art of good event management from an event manager's perspective is providing people with those opportunities or those spaces for them to break out. So they have that just a little bit of a quieter space. So when I, with Sarah, who's our event manager, when we go and look at spaces, we are always looking at these kind of things. Are there little nooks and crannies? Are there little semi-private places that people can go and have a quieter conversation? Not away from everybody, but just building on that intimacy, you know. And that's important.
That is important. Absolutely. So is networking, in your opinion, a form of professional development?
Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Why?
Because nowadays with learning is not just about what you do in a classroom or what you do online. Learning is absolutely every single day that you are out and about. I'm learning right now. Everybody is always learning with whatever they're doing. And networking, you're meeting new people, discussing new topics, and you're learning. And it is definitely professional development. You will always take home new skills and new information. And that is professional development. It's not always about what you learn in the classroom and the certificate that you take home.
Absolutely. And actually, also, I'm going to keep saying things like that to add on. I do think it's really important too to make sure that you understand what your business does yourself in these networking events. I think it's good practice, regardless if you're technical or if you're a salesperson or marketing or whatever the case may be. If you can actually go up to someone and they say, hey, what do you do? And you can really genuinely explain what your business's mission and values and vision is, that's a great opportunity to practice that.
It is. And actually, if you can confidently tell people what that is, you will sound more confident and you will enjoy it more.
Yes.
And that comes across in the conversations that you have then. If you're relaxed and you're smiling and you're happy, the person you're talking to will be relaxed, smiling and happy. If you're tense and nervous and obviously uncomfortable, that will be mirrored back to you 9 times out of 10. So, yeah.
So if you're new to networking and you are nervous or shaky or just socially awkward, like some of us can be, what do you recommend? Like, what are some pointers that you would give out to that person?
It's hard. It make no mistake, it is hard and it is nerve-wracking when you've never done it before.
Of course.
But everybody has been in that boat. Everybody feels a little bit uncomfortable going up to somebody they've never met before. But we're all people.
Yeah.
So, make that connection. And if you're really that nervous, then what I would suggest is before you actually go to the conference, see if you can identify somebody who's going that either you know or that somebody knows. We're all connected by various degrees in this industry. So, ask around, see who's going to the event that you're going to, and see if you can make contact beforehand and see if you can arrange to meet up. It's always nicer to do these events when you've got, you've got a brother in arms next to you to support you in conversations. It does make life a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely agree with that. It's in the past, like when I've gone to different conferences and I've actually arranged meetings beforehand, it makes it so much easier to at least know that you're looking forward to meeting someone eventually.
Yeah.
So you have that key person so that way when you're here, like, okay, I have a meeting at 2, so I better make the most out of this hour buffer that I have
Absolutely.
to myself. So that way it's like, I want to meet as many people because I got this meeting.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. It's kind of a motivator.
It absolutely is a motivator. And it's really nice to know that you've got stuff in the diary, if that makes sense, when you're going to an event, when you know you're already meeting people. And most events and conferences now will have an app. So before the conference, most people will be registered on the app.
Yeah.
So you can go through and look, see who's attending, see if they've added any information about themselves, see if they're willing to connect with you beforehand. And if you're still really struggling, then on the day of the conference, speak to the event managers. They will know. Absolutely. They will know the people who come every year, and they will know the people in that room who know everybody. And in any industry, there's always a group of people who know absolutely everybody in the industry. I can think of probably at least 20 off the top of my head that go to our event on a regular basis. And they know absolutely everybody.
Wow.
As the event managers, we can point you in that direction. We know them, they know us, we can help you out.
I actually did not know that. I did not know that you could just go up to an event. I would have thought they'd have better things to do than to talk to me.
Well, we can't just drop everything.
Of course.
But absolutely, we're there to provide a service, and we're there to help you, and we're there to make sure that your 3 days, 4 days, however long you're with us, is memorable and is valuable.
That's good. So when it comes to the food safety industry specifically, it does sound like there's quite a sense of community. If you yourself, as an event organizer in the food safety industry, have a top 20 people that you see almost every time, then that tells me that there's a certain group of people. So can you speak to what types of people actually go into these conferences, if you could put a profile on them?
I'd always be a bit hesitant to put a profile on them, only in the sense that our speaking from my perspective, our events are open to everybody. Whether you're one of our sites or not, you're open to everybody. But you do tend to find that there is a group of people that will go to the events regularly. And it's a small industry, if that makes sense. It's kind of a contradiction in terms it's a huge industry, but there are a small number of people that are just everywhere. And that's part of the challenge actually for our industry, is to make sure that we're bringing new blood in. And that's part of, I see it as our responsibility in the event management, to make sure that we're providing opportunities for those who are established in the business, those who are really well connected and knowledgeable in the industry, to actually hold the hand out to those who are coming in and provide support. And we can help facilitate with that.
What's an example of that?
So we, at BRCGS, we've introduced a new event called Leaders of Tomorrow. And it's something that I'm really passionate about. And so is Sarah, the event manager. For us, it's a wonderful event. We are inviting those people in your business that you've identified as your leaders of tomorrow. And it's those people that you think actually they're quite early on in their career, or they may have, it doesn't necessarily mean they're young. It may mean they've transitioned from another department, and actually you've identified them as somebody you want to support and promote. Those people are coming into your industry without knowing anybody necessarily. They're not benefiting from the network that you have and the knowledge that you have. And Leaders of Tomorrow is an opportunity for us to share knowledge, share contacts, give some good practical advice to people. And we're not doing it to make money. We're doing it genuinely because the industry needs it. We know the industry needs young blood, and we want to make sure that we can facilitate that. And so Leaders of Tomorrow for me is a really nice platform to do that.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, and it's a really nice way for those who have been in the industry for 20, 30 years to give something back. I don't know about you, but if somebody knocked on my door and said, Michelle, you've, for example, run a number of events, would you be willing to talk to a bunch of early 20-year-olds to give your advice? Absolutely, more than happy to do so. And I think most people are open to that. So that's what we're hoping to expand upon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when we talk about people in the industry and bringing in new blood, are we talking about technical people? Are we talking about like from the manufacturing sites? Are we talking about brand owners? Like who are we talking about?
Everything.
Okay.
It's really across the board. And when I say new blood, it could be apprentices. It could be straight from college, university, or it could be somebody in their mid-30s that's changed direction in their career. There is no right profile. And we need to be open to finding ways to support everybody who's up and coming in our industry, and ensuring that they are well supported, and talking about our industry a bit more.
Yeah.
But people don't know, and before I came into this world, I didn't know enough about this industry, and I find it fascinating now.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes sense. And I think one thing that if you're new to the industry, and you're looking for conferences, what would you say would be a good way to find the right conference for you? How do you spot, like when you're doing your research, like how do you spot like, okay, this is a room I want to be in with people? What would you say to those who are doing their research and trying to figure out what room to be in?
It's interesting. It really depends. And I would definitely consult those in your industry. So talk to people that you work with, find out what works for them, what they go to that they find really beneficial. And have that conversation internally to say, well, what are my objectives? What are my, what are my aims for the next few years? What do I need to focus on? So, there's some conferences that are huge, thousands of people attend.
Right.
But for my money, those are, they're great for gathering various bits of information.
Yeah.
But you don't get a deep dive into anything. You don't really get an opportunity to make meaningful contacts. So the conferences that we run, I'd call them smaller events in inverted commas. They're not small by any means. And what that does is it enables you to have that personable conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
It enables you to get some detailed knowledge from the speakers, from the breakout sessions, and from the training courses that are on offer during that time period. So again, it does come back to my earlier comment about what are your objectives?
Right.
What's your reason for attending? And as long as you're consistent with that, it usually becomes fairly apparent which conference or event you need to attend.
Good. So with BRCGS, tell me, what are the kinds of conferences that you are typically hosting?
So we run all sorts, really. So, for example, in November, we're running our Delivery Partner Conference in Europe. And that is an opportunity for us to talk to and get closer to our delivery partners. It's quite small, it's quite intimate. It's usually around 160, 170 people. And it's really an opportunity for our partners to ask us lots of questions, for us to ask questions of our partners, and to have a two-way conversation in person. And I think that's where our events are really important. It's really hard these days to have those face-to-face conversations, and they're so valuable.
Yeah.
So valuable. So the other event we're running is in February. It's Food Safety Europe. Again, it's a one-day event, relatively small and intimate. But most people who attend that conference leave the conference with something really valuable to take home. That's where home was coming in.
There you go.
And then, of course, we have our Leaders of Tomorrow event as well, and those sorts of things. So, yeah, all sorts of different events.
So you mentioned Food Safety Americas.
Yes.
I want to learn more about that.
Food Safety Americas is, dare I say it, one of my favorites. It's a 3-day event, but it is supported by training courses, meetings, breakout sessions, and all sorts of opportunities to talk. And the reason I love it as well is you really do get that opportunity to have that contact. So we obviously have the main bit of the conference, but we have evening entertainment. And Sarah, our event manager, is amazing at making evening entertainment fun. You will have a lot of fun while you're there, and you'll have fun and you'll learn and you'll make, connections. And that's the art of a good event.
Yes.
If I dare say so myself.
Well, to be honest, like in my personal experience, I find yes, the education portion is very important because that's how you really understand how to find like-minded companies that you want to talk to and you actually want to conduct business with, because you can find people who have your same values. But the nighttime portion is so important when it comes back to that concept that you talked about. When you want to build meaningful relationships, it's about connecting with people, getting back to that core concept of we're people first.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, you're not going to do business with someone you don't like.
No. And if you're having fun, you're relaxed. Yes. And if you're relaxed, you're more yourself. And if you're more yourself, you're more confident. So, it has these kind of knock-on effects.
Yes.
So, whilst we're planning our events, we're not just trying to think of ways to have a lot of fun. We're genuinely doing it to support you and the connections that you make.
Yeah.
So we, for example, next year we're running it in May in San Antonio, and it's a beautiful venue. Now we don't just choose beautiful venues because they're beautiful. There's a reason behind it, and we like to make sure that the space that we choose is flexible and malleable to the needs that may change. Plans change and delegates' needs change, and we have to be able to adapt to that. So we ensure that when we're choosing our venue, we have somewhere that can allow us that flexibility. That's
really nice to hear. And seeing on the lovely poster behind you, for those of you who are listening and not watching, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous picture of this venue. So if you can't see us and you're just listening, please Google the images because that pool looks amazing.
Yes, I can verify it is amazing. Yes.
Okay. So with Food Safety Americas, is it exclusive to BRCGS customers? I know you said we're open to everybody, but what does that actually mean?
It means it's anybody in the industry or that finds the content interesting. I mean, it's an event.
So you don't have to be in the industry specifically to go?
Not at all. You look at the agenda, as with any event, look at the agenda if you're curious, if you're interested, if you want to learn more, come along. You never know how cross-contamination can work. You never know how attending a conference can affect what you do in your work. So I've been to IT and tech conferences. You wouldn't think that I would necessarily want to go to those, but actually I learn a lot when I go to those because a lot of the things they talk about, the principles that they talk about, you can apply to your industry. And it may be that you're bringing something new to your industry by doing that. If you just stick to events and conferences that are just in your own little world, you're not going to be exposed to new things.
That's very, very true. Actually, I recently just went to a conference earlier this week, which was a conference in the fashion industry, which sounds really different, right? It doesn't sound like a world that we would be in there. it was recommended for me to go because of our new ethical standard.
Right.
And with ethics, obviously, in the fashion industry, a very traditional example is at manufacturing sites, there still practices slavery in other countries. And it's a really big issue. But it was so inspiring and so amazing to see how many brand owners are taking responsibility over ethics, over sustainability. People care. The market's changing.
Yeah.
And I would have never, ever, ever, ever have had this experience to learn this and to learn about all the steps that those in the fashion industry are taking to take responsibility and to have more sustainable products if I didn't step outside of those key words of food safety. Sometimes you can actually find value and connection for your business in something that's a subcategory. It might not be your main focus per se. As you know, like with BRCGS, like a lot of people think we're just food, but this is the same concept. We're beyond food.
Absolutely.
We do have an ethical standard. We have plant-based. We have gluten-free. We have consumer products. We do get into packaging. So like really like you can go outside of that key word and find value. And
I would definitely recommend doing so. I think everybody should get out of your comfort zone. It's good for you. It makes you enjoy things again in a different way and with a different perspective.
Yes, absolutely. With Food Safety America's conference, we know where it is. We know that it's May 12th to 14th, 2020. I don't know if you actually said that, but I'm reading the banner behind you. So.
Yeah, it's a good job. You've got a good view.
Are there rooms still available at this wonderful place?
There are, and I'd get in quick. They're beautiful rooms. And it does, in all seriousness, it does make a difference if you are on site during a conference, because a lot of your colleagues and attendees will be there as well. So it's, it's little things like after the main agenda, sitting in the bar and having a chat of the hotel.
Yes.
Sounds silly. That's where sometimes those critical connections can be made. So yes, there's the room still available. I wouldn't leave it too late. Sometimes people tend to book their conference ticket and then go, I'll do the hotel later. I really wouldn't do that.
Biggest mistake.
Yeah, last year we sold out quite early on and there were some disappointed people. So
yeah, I did that once before. It's not fun. So get on it.
Yeah.
So because it's hosted in Texas, does that mean that a lot of the attendees will be solely from the US?
No, not at all. We definitely... we're very lucky, actually, that we're able to greet people from all over the world. We have, obviously, a lot of attendees are from the US and Canada. Excuse me, my voice is going. And South America. But we have people from the Far East. We have people from Australia and Europe as well. So we're very lucky and very privileged to be able to welcome people from all over the place.
That's good. That's nice.
It is.
That's definitely something that I think speaks to the conference itself, in a sense. Like,
yeah, I like to think so.
I don't want to toot our own horn, but at the same time, if a conference is big enough or important enough to people that the content matters for them to travel, I think that's huge.
It is, definitely. And that we don't take that lightly.
No.
We recognize that if people they're not only giving up their time, they're traveling and they're making a commitment. And that's a real responsibility that we have to ensure that we're providing something of real value.
Yes.
And we don't take that lightly.
Good. What about the types of people that go for ticket options? So like, what are the types of ticket options that you have to go to this conference?
So we have a couple of different types. We've just recently introduced a student ticket rate.
Oh.
Off the back of what we were discussing earlier, our leaders of tomorrow, we think it's really important to actually bring students into our world. Bring them in nice and early. Let's help them to make those connections. Let's help them to understand the things that they need to know about if they're going to go into this industry. And also, you get a lot of university students who are doing relevant degrees, but would not necessarily think of doing or having a career in our world.
Of course.
And I think our world's a fantastic place.
Yeah.
And it's some really amazing opportunities for people.
Absolutely.
So we definitely want to welcome some more students into our world. And, we'd encourage as many as possible to attend.
I think that's a really good point. I feel like most people fresh out of school, like they don't necessarily know where they're going to go. And that's okay. That gives you that opportunity to stumble on something cool. And it's really nice to hear that you guys are welcoming students.
Yeah.
So professors, make sure to have a field trip. There's a lot of schools in Texas, is there not?
There is a lot of schools, and certainly industry relevant ones as well. But yeah, we would love to welcome the students, and also it shouldn't be underplayed. Just because somebody's young, it doesn't mean they don't have something valuable to give, and have valuable opinions. You know, you can be 20 or 50. And your opinions and your thoughts are just as valuable.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we want to start, making sure that everybody's voice is heard or shared.
That's a really nice sense of community.
And I think that's what we want our events to do. We are here to help and support and foster a community. And I think those who have been in this industry for a long time, a lot of them know each other. A lot of them have really good relationships. Let's open that up. Let's extend that, and let's start sort of.
So it has consistent people and things, but it's more about building up the community. It's not like an enclosed, cliquey group.
No, it's definitely not.
That's good.
It's more of a, dare I say, unknown. But every single person that I've met and spoken to in this industry has been very, very welcoming, knowledgeable, incredibly knowledgeable people in this industry.
Yes.
But they're very patient and understanding of those that don't have necessarily the same amount of knowledge. And that's rare. It's really rare.
That is rare.
It's lovely to see.
So that really does tie into the networking for professional development.
Absolutely.
At that point.
Absolutely. And for us, professional development is really important. You know, we want to ensure consistency and quality.
Yes.
And that's the heart of what we are. In order to do that, you need to support people in their professional development to help maintain that consistency and quality. So
it sounds like, to me, that this conference isn't just BRCGS having a sales pitch, because that is my number one pet peeve when you go to a conference and they just talk at you about everything that we do.
It's also my pet peeve. And as somebody who's responsible for our events, I like to make sure that doesn't happen. So we work extremely hard with our agendas. We work with our international advisory board. We work with previous delegates, and we invite feedback, and we want feedback, good, bad, we want it all, and we want to hear it. We can't always react to absolutely everything, but we always try to absorb as much information as we can and change accordingly. But no, nobody wants to be sold to. Everybody who stands on that stage has to provide something of value to the audience, and that's critical.
Typically, how do you stand on that stage? Is that an element of sponsorship? Is that a sponsorship option?
There's an element of sponsorship. Yeah, we have thought leadership packages. So we have a variety of different sponsorship packages that are available, and Thought Leader is definitely a popular one.
Yeah.
But equally, they have to provide something that's of real value. It isn't a sales pitch by any means, and our previous thought leaders, people who have attended our events will hopefully attest to that.
Yes.
That it isn't what it is.
That's good, because to be honest, I think the sales pitch really of you just being up there and sharing your knowledge, that in itself is so valuable for a brand owner or any kind of company that wants to get in front of either manufacturing sites or specific brand owners and anything in the food industry. Like if you're able to really show what you can do and again, express those core values that we all want to see, you're going to strike a conversation.
You are. And I think it's about building that trust.
Yes.
So if I'm in a room and I'm listening to somebody talk, if I'm thinking, they're just trying to make me sell, buy something, that trust is gone. If you're there and you're actually giving me some information that I A, didn't have, or that B, I wanted to know more about, then there's an element of trust there.
Yeah.
And then you've got something to build upon. And that's critically what it's about, really.
With good networking practices. So what are some examples or notes that you would suggest for listeners to apply to the Food Safety Americas Conference specifically that we haven't already talked about? I know we circled back on this a few times, but I think it's important to reiterate.
It's interesting, actually. I would say take the time to go out in the breaks and talk to people. Yeah. Some people, and it may be because of what we just discussed earlier, that they are a bit shy or may not know how to interact with people, they stay in the exhibit hall and they'll look at their emails or whatever it may be. try not to do that. You know,
Okay.
you're there, your time has been committed,
Mm-hmm.
put an out of office, if you can, on your emails, and try to connect with people. And it may be something as simple as going to speak to one of our exhibitors. They always have loads of goodies on their table. I love goodies. As most of the sponsors will tell you in the past, I'll always go and raid their tables. But it's a great conversation starter. Mm-hmm. And so if you're feeling a bit insecure, if you're feeling a bit unsure, go and talk to the exhibitors. It's a good starting point. And 9 times out of 10, you'll end up talking to somebody else who's also talking to them. And that's how conversations flow.
Okay. So you mentioned sponsorship again. And I actually have another question with that. In your opinion, what is your favorite form of sponsorship?
Oh, controversial. So
I want to hear it.
We have all sorts of different sponsorship packages, and it is a very personal thing. So last year we did something which was called the Sweetie Shop.
Yes.
And that was sponsored, and we had like a pick-a-mix.
Yeah.
I don't know if pick-a-mix is a translatable term all around the world.
I mean, I know it, but okay. I don't know.
So just in case it's not a translatable term, it's basically lots of little pots of sweets, and you have little bags, and you put whatever you want in. Now, maybe it's because I'm childish, but that I really enjoyed, and everybody loved it.
Yeah.
So for me, the sponsor of that, they're going to go home and they'll remember that sponsor, and they'll remember them in a fun way.
Interesting. You know, you mentioned it's personal, and I think that's very true. In past conferences that I've been to, for me, I often have good takeaways from captivating speakers, but that's speaking to my preference and my language. Yeah. So it really is personal, and that's probably why having several different opportunities for sponsorship, there's really no wrong way to go about it.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And, you know, we're happy to sort of support anybody if they want to come up with something new and different. Mm-hmm. You know, we have a lot of different sponsorship packages. But we want to provide you with an opportunity to engage with our delegates in a fun, exciting, or new way, and not in a way that they feel like they're being sold to. That's not what the aim is.
Yeah, you know what? That was something I kind of wanted to ask you. I do feel like sponsorship in general can be a bit of a mixed feelings type of topic for most companies, because some people will argue, like, you know what, sponsorship can be expensive and it's time consuming, and I don't even know if I'm going to get any sales out of it. Mm-hmm. But based on what you've been talking about, I think that if you're not going to make it a sales pitch specifically, and if you really outline your goals to align with what's going on at the conference at that time, you should really evaluate whether sponsorship is valuable for you based on what kinds of relationships you want to get out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it does require, you know, effort and interaction from sponsors. And you know, don't forget that we're here to support the sponsors and the delegates. Contact us, talk to us. Yeah. You know, that's what we're here for.
And sometimes with sponsorship too, you can just learn about a company that way for the first time.
Absolutely.
Like that's always something interesting for me. When people take the time to be a sponsor for me as a participant, I always want to go talk to them and just kind of understand, what do you do? Just to see. Yeah. You know, because I can appreciate, if you're going to put your label on something, or if you're going to provide this free gift for me, I want to know who you are. Yeah. That's, again, my personal preference, but
well, your interest
hopefully
is
everyone. Well, hopefully everyone will feel that way. Yeah. Absolutely. So another thing that I wanted to touch base on is with sponsorship. You had mentioned earlier, one of the reasons why you picked this venue is because it's a flexible venue. Yeah. And for me, as a person who wants a sponsor, I cannot tell you how frustrating it is when a conference puts me in a creative box and really limits what I can do in terms of my sponsorship. Sometimes I want to do something completely different than other people have ever done, but they say no because of the venue. Yeah. So my question to you is, for Food Safety America, is how creative can we get?
We can get as creative as you like, really. I mean, practically speaking and operationally speaking, there's always going to be some limitations somewhere. Sure. But having said that, if somebody comes to us and says, Michelle, Sarah, we want 20 elephants branded with our company logo, you know, if it's possible, we'll find a way to do it. There are no limitations.
Yeah.
And that's why when we're looking at venues, we always try to make sure that there is that flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
And we're definitely open to new ideas. We have a sponsorship brochure because you have to have a starting point.
Sure.
You have to have something for people to work from. But we're definitely open to discussions. So yes, by all means, if you feel the need to, bring some elephants to our event, come and talk to us.
Okay, pink elephants. So that's an idea for anyone who hasn't taken it yet. But that is nice. It is nice that you guys have a brochure, and just to have a starting point, I think, is pretty important. Because if you're new to the industry and you have no idea how to start, even just being able to put your own personal twist to that, I think that can certainly be valuable.
Definitely.
So I wanted to ask a question. You did mention earlier that there are opportunities for breakout sessions. There are opportunities for actual training courses.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like at the Food Safety Americas conference?
So we've got training courses running from the Sunday before the event. So the event actually kicks off on the Tuesday. We have our welcome drinks on the Monday night, but the event, strictly speaking, kicks off on the Tuesday. But we have training courses on the Sunday and the Monday. Mm-hmm. And then we have breakout sessions on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then on the Friday morning, what we're introducing, which we're quite excited about, is a BRCGS professional morning. And that is for our professional members. So if you're one of our sites, so this little tiny portion is relevant to our sites only, then you're eligible for the BRCGS professional program. And we see that very much as an extension of building that continuing learning development story, really.
Yes.
And so we're really looking forward to that. It's something new that we're bringing to the conference.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity for us to have that face-to-face interaction with our professional network, which is growing, so fast. And it gives us an opportunity to talk to them.
I think that's really, really nice to know that if you are a BRCGS specific site, you kind of get that element of exclusivity.
Yes.
If you want to be a VIP, you can become
Absolutely.
Stop selling, Paula. Okay. No, that's really great to hear. So sounds like there's a lot of different opportunities here. So you have networking, we have elements of speaking on different topics, we have training courses. We seem to have pretty much everything there.
There is. It's going to be a jam-packed week. I'm going to need a week off. Afterwards. But no, it's going to be fun. So we're bringing some new things to the conference, and as event managers, that's what we want to do. We don't want to do the same thing every year. We want to bring something different.
Yeah.
But we need to hear from people, and their thoughts and their needs. So come and talk to us if you've got an idea or a suggestion. By all means, come and see us. Come and see us in May in San Antonio, and we'll see what we can do.
I love it. So if someone actually did genuinely want to talk to you, how do they do that?
So the simplest way is if you email us at events@brcgs.com, then either myself or Sarah will be able to respond to you. So that those who go to our events will know Sarah's name. She's an amazing event manager.
Yeah.
And one of us will be able to help you out.
So if I wanted to get tickets, where do I go to actually find the tickets? Is it on the website?
It is. So everything's on our website and it's all under the events tab. And you can book all the different ticket types on our website. And you can see the agenda as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And is there anything on social at all? Like if I was looking through LinkedIn or Facebook, am I going to find something?
Quite often we will post something about our speakers. So as and when, we think we want to sort of shout about some of our speakers, we'll put something on because it's interesting to have a look at each speaker's bio and learn a little bit more about them.
Yeah.
So we'll put some information on there every now and again. We do some fun stuff around Halloween. So, watch out for that. We like to have fun. We're here to do a job. We're here to do a job well, but we're also here to have fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's really good to hear. And I did take a sneak peek of the schedule, and it does look like you have some really cool topics on that panel. So I highly encourage anybody to go and check that out.
Definitely. We're getting some really, really good feedback on the agenda. So we're really proud of the work that's been done on that.
Fantastic. So Michelle, are there any last pointers that you want to bring to any listeners today on when you're approaching a conference in the food safety industry or any kind of conference in any industry? What are the key points that you should do to have a successful trip?
So plan ahead.
Yeah.
Really. Try to take some time. We're all incredibly busy people, and it's so easy for your days just to merge, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I've got to go to the conference tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Carve some time out to plan ahead. Figure out what you want to achieve at that conference. Try to have just a couple of objectives. Just even if it's just 2, have some objectives, and then enjoy yourself. The event managers, the people who are there, they all want to enjoy themselves. They want to learn. And then there's a serious side to events. But it is an opportunity to take yourself out of your 9 to 5, should I say. I know nobody works 9 to 5, by the way. But it's an opportunity to take you out of that and put you in something different. And that often triggers different thought processes. So enjoy it.
Okay. So plan ahead.
Yes. That's going to be a new hashtag, I think.
Hashtag plan ahead. So plan ahead. Enjoy yourself. Make sure you listen.
Yes.
Listen when you're making relationships. Take the time to take the networking seriously and use it for your professional development. I think if you're there to learn, if there's anything I learned today, it's if you're there to actually learn and create your goals around how am I going to bring something back to my company today versus I'm going to go and sell my company constantly. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
That's the big takeaway.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today,
No,
Michelle.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
I really appreciate you being here. So for more information on Food Safety Americas or conferences in your area, visit www.brcgs.com/events to get your tickets and learn how you can build the network in the food safety industry. If you want to buy tickets at Food Safety Americas, you can actually get 10% off today for listening with the discount code podcast2020. That's podcast 2020 for the Food Safety Americas conference. If you need any other kind of information or support, you can always email events at brcgs.com. So yeah, that's what we're going to end off today. Thank you so much for listening. Let's use science for a safer world, and thanks for tuning in.